Good evening, guys, and welcome again to my last one today, Caitriona Ellis. She deals with financial, and hopefully she'll be on very soon. And we're trying to contact her now. And yes, so we'll be with you shortly, guys, and be really good. Hope you enjoyed our shows or so far today. We started off this morning, been some others today. Hiya,
Hi, Steve. How are you?
brilliant. Thank you so much for joining me.
No worries.
Um, I just wanted to find out a bit about you, really, before I start. Tell everybody about you.
Sure. Yep. So a bit about me. I'm originally from Ireland and I live in the Isle of Man at the moment. I've got 3 kids and I home educate. And I started on a journey of working with financial wellness about 6 years ago personally, and then have started in the earlier this year working with other women. So I'm a property investor as well, and just financial wellness, I suppose, is something kind of I live and breathe now. It's something I personally do and live every day, and I'm passionate about teaching it and teaching the principles of it to women in particular.
Right. Okay. So why not? Why just women?
Because I suppose anything I do, I'm running an event at the moment. It's a free event, and there are guys partaking in it as well. But my heart kind of lies with females because I understand best, I suppose, what the typical challenges are that females encounter in this area. Being a female myself, what I teach can be applied to men also. But my slant is coming at it from a female perspective, which can vary in some respects to a male's viewpoint on it. But it's just always been females who have presented themselves to me and looked for help. So that's kind of where I feel like I was meant to go with it.
Okay. And talking about financial, wellness in women too. Sometimes women are what can I say? They are the more Darren Meehan who's got the purse saying, they go out shopping and they buy whatever, buy new clothes and everything. So and do you think they're more money conscious than men?
Um, it can. I'm not sure I could make a generalization either way with it, to be honest. I think it varies from house to house. There are both. I think people can be either side of it. I think generally, I suppose, stereotypically, historically, men have held the purse strings and kind of given allowances to females to manage the house and whatnot. So because generally, previously would have been men were the main earners, but that obviously has shifted over the last number of decades, and women are now earning, so they have more control themselves over what's coming in. So they probably are spending more than they previously would have been. But a lot of females are in positions where they don't earn, and I was one of those. And because they've chosen to be primary caregiver to kids and whatnot. And so they then have limited possibilities as to, they're not bringing money in. So they don't, I definitely felt that I wouldn't spend it in the same way when it wasn't me who was earning it. So I was a lot more cautious. So I think it depends on the individuals, their circumstances, whether they're both working, it's just one person working, and the dynamic between them. I mean, in our house, it's me, I'm the CFO, the Chief Financial Officer in Ellis household. And because it's my thing, I really enjoy doing it, and I really enjoy managing it. But we both chatted through as to what we want to do and where we want it to go and whatnot. So neither of us holds the power to any great degree. We kind of agree what works for both of us.
Well, my wife is the boss in my house, so I go by my wife. Um, and so she does all the money, because if I have the money, I'll just go out and spend. And but that's it. So why did you want it to be a finance wellness coach?
Well, I think one of these people who I think things don't happen by accident, and I've held off doing this work for ages. I've been on my own personal journey with it since 2015, and it was only kind of last year. My husband is an airline pilot, and obviously COVID hit us pretty hard immediately, and we lost our only income. Now we're in the Isle of Man, so we didn't have the furlough that you had in the UK and Ireland. So we were getting £200 a week for a family of five. So that obviously wasn't going
Oh,
to
that's
go too
terrible.
far. Yeah, it was a bit of a joke, and we could get no kind of benefits, children's allowance or any of that based on the restrictions that we had. So it was a bit of a baptism of fire. And so I decided then, I could see his income not returning anytime soon with the chaos that was all around us at that time. And so I felt I needed to do something, contribute to getting us another exit route out of where we were. So I started exploring a few things I could do. Property investment was one, so I started down that route, and we've been successful investing in buy-to-let property in the northeast of England, and that's been going great. And then as I was kind of pottering away down that route, I kept bumping into other females who would present themselves to me and be stuck financially and be looking for help. And knowing that being in their friends, a friend of theirs or in their friend circle, knowing I was passionate about this, they would chat with me about it. And it was just female after female kept popping up asking me for help. And I thought maybe I should just get in my own way and actually do something with this. But I held back doing it for ages because I work with a mentor myself, the same one since 2015. And she's amazing. I love her. She's been absolutely transformative in my life. And I thought, I can't do any better than her. Like, her stuff is amazing. But then I found an angle of doing it my way in a different way. And, a lot of it for free. So people never had money. Not having money wasn't an issue to increasing the financial education they had. And so it was kind of, I'd say, a bit of fate really that brought me along this route. And eventually when I decided, yeah, look, there can't be any more signs. I just need to do it. People keep popping up. So, and it's always women. So let's just go for it and see what happens. So I ran my free event for the first time in May. It got really good sign up, really good engagement. And I thought, okay, this is really helping people. Let's keep going with this. And so it just went from there, really.
Yeah. Are you now running a business? Are you now getting money in?
Yeah, well, what I did after the free event in May, that was a week-long event, and after the end of that, I offered people the opportunity to continue working with me for those who felt it was the right fit on my 90 Days to Financial Wellness program. So that was a paid program, so people paid to work with me for 90 days, and but because it was the first time I'd done it in a group setting, I made it an attractive price, and I had a group of 15 women join me, and so I was working with that group then for the last 3 months. So that was a really cool experience, and really honored to be part of the changes that they were making and being able to play a part in helping them and support them in that journey.
Okay, so if a woman came up to you and said, right, Caitriona, I want to start my own business, what advice would you give them?
I think for me, when somebody presents in a position like that, I always ask them to encourage them to start with the end in mind. So have a really clear idea first off as to what are you trying to build? What is it? And one of the pillars to financial wellness that I work with is having really clarity of vision on what financial wellness means for you. So if you're building a business, your business is going to be part of your life. So what is it? What would the ideal setup be for you? And for me, that's always answers a simple question that, if you were to, from the time you wake up in the morning on your ideal day, from the time you open your eyes to the time you close your eyes at nighttime, how would that day play out? So how would that business fit in there? How would you see it working, when it's going exactly how you want it to go? And then go from there. So when we have the end in mind, then it's about kind of figuring out what the baby steps are then to get you from wherever you are to what it is you want to be, and just one step at a time get there. So that would be my usual take on situations like that.
Okay. Do you think a lot of women now are getting into business?
I do see, I don't know whether it's where I'm sitting or standing at the moment, I do see a lot of females stepping up at the moment and really starting to explore new things and step up in business in all sorts of different ways, from creatives to the kind of space I'm in, all sorts. So I do think there's a bit of a shift kind of happening at the moment, but I don't know whether that's I'm biased based on where I'm standing or whether other people are seeing the same thing. I don't think, but I definitely am noticing that.
Yeah, because where a long time ago, where the woman used to stay at home and look after the house, that's all gone now. That's and I think we live in a kind of world now where actually women actually lead the world. That's what I think. You know,
Yeah.
what do you reckon?
I think there's probably, like, I was one of those women who stayed at home. I had a a really successful corporate career back in 2008 before my first was born, and I loved that world, but that world couldn't compare with the love of when that little first child arrived in my life. It was like nothing prepared me for it. So I still think there's a certain chunk of women who will still feel like that, and who will choose to spend a certain portion of those years at home with their kids because that's where their heart's at, and who will, like I am now, re-enter the workforce and do their own thing when the kids are more at a more independent stage. But then there are others who it suits to, they're not drawn to staying at home, and the best thing for them is to continue on as they have been before and put the child with parents to grandparents to mind, or childcare, or whatever it is. But it's really about finding whatever the best fit is for that individual and that mum, and what works best for us. So I don't know. I think there's space for both. I haven't seen a major shift on that, to be honest. But who knows? Time will tell, I guess.
Yeah, there's it says here 70% out of women have started their own self-employment business.
Well, yeah, amazing. That's a very high percentage. And I wonder, is that something on the side, or are they doing that in addition to childcare, or are they doing that, the kids are elsewhere and they're doing this full time? I wonder kind of what's some information behind that. Who knows? I mean, I think there's all sorts of versions to it. But ultimately for me, it's do whatever you intuitively feel yourself works best for you and your family setup.
Yeah. How about if someone wanted to invest in a property like you do? If someone came along to you and said, right, Caitriona, I want to invest in a property, say, I don't know, in the Isle of Man, say, what would you
Yep.
say?
Well, I'd say, first of all, Isle of Man is not where I invest because it's a lot more expensive to invest here. Probably similar prices to the south of England. So I would say my choice personally would be not to invest here, and that's what I've done myself. Is I've gone to the northeast of England. My husband and I've lived there for a number of years, so I'm familiar with it. And there's better value for your money, in my opinion, in that area. So that's why I've chosen there. So I would encourage somebody who's looking into that to explore other parts of the UK or whatever part of the world you're in, where you can, dip your toe in the water with property, with a lot lower amount of cash. So, I mean, most people, if they're looking kind of in the south of England or even in the Isle of Man, you're talking about kind of your average house, maybe 250, 300,000. But in the northeast, we're picking up houses for kind of between 45,500 was the cheapest we've picked up so far, and 50 has been the most expensive. So you get a lot more bang for your buck in the northeast of England. So that for me means my money can go farther, and I
Yeah,
can
yeah,
sorry.
sorry, when I used to live up in Newcastle, I found the house prices were so cheap and, sorry, more reasonable than living in the south because I live in the south now.
Okay.
And
Yeah.
well, I've always lived in the south, but I moved away when I got married
Okay.
to Newcastle, a place called Wallsend. And
Yes.
what happened there in Wallsend was, but the ship hunters, the docks closed, then all the shops closed, then everything went away and everything. The
Mm,
prices of the houses went down
yeah.
because people moved out of the area, and
Yeah.
so what they did was they thought, well, okay, let's sell some houses for around about like £20 on or £50. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
To and but the trouble is, so in the northeast, it's reasonable. You can get cheap properties, as you said, about
Yeah,
45,000, 50,000. And
absolutely.
do you it is it just one property do you have, or do you have a lot of properties?
No, we've bought three in the last 6 9 months, and we've got three or four in the pipeline at the moment. So, and at the moment, the ones that we're working with, they're bringing each of them is bringing us in about £500 per house per month after mortgage and letting fee. So it's a decent amount, I suppose, for many people that we're working with, because I now introduce other people who are looking to do the same, and we have retired people who are retirement age who have a shortage with their pension, and who don't know how to best manage it, and who don't personally want to deal with the property hassle. But the partner we work with in the northeast takes care of it all. So he literally finds the property for us. He does the refurbishment. He finds the tenant and he manages the tenancy. So it's very hands off. So even though we own three, I've never seen them. I've never met the tenants. I've had no hand to play in actually getting that house. The pieces I've arranged for it has been the finance, with the lender and the legals on it. Other than that, the partner we work with in the northeast has taken care of all the hard graft stuff, because that's his speciality. So it's been an interesting way to do it, and probably wouldn't have done it that way had COVID not hit and taken it out of our hands. But it's actually been a blessing in disguise and a huge silver lining to COVID, really, for us.
Yeah, and with investment, I mean property, a lot of kind of because of the COVID, a lot of people's lost their jobs in the northwest. There's not many jobs. Do you agree?
Yeah, I think there's been huge impact from a jobs perspective on across the country, and there's been certain parts of like tourism and retail and travel industry have been probably the hardest hit. And I feel for, I mean, we've many friends who've lost their jobs in the travel industry, because we're closely linked to that, and it's a very very tough situation to be in. And as they remove the furlough and the government support payments now, later in the year, that pinch is going to, feel even harder. And it's a very difficult situation to be in, because you can see, in the UK, and it's the same here. The queues at food banks and stuff, and the demand coming from food banks is just, it's astronomical, and all of that is being, to my mind, is being largely supported by private industry and private people who are contributing to that. Like, I work for the food bank here, and it's just insane, the pressure that they're under, and they're picking up the pieces. And I think that that's only going to get worse, unfortunately. And yeah, it's not a good position to be in. But hopefully the private people and individuals who continue to support this food bank, to make sure that kids particularly, are not arriving into school hungry, that they have something in their presses at home, and they're getting one hot meal at least during the day. But it's a tough state of affairs, and it'll take us a long time, I think, the government to bridge the holes, and to fill the holes that have been formed with all the money that's been poured out during COVID.
Yeah, yeah. As a landlord yourself, what happens if somebody came along and kind of like lost their job because of COVID? Only thing what they get is benefits and like housing benefit. And if you had a tenant, would you kind of like say to that tenant or the business who's looking after them, sorry, but you can't live here no longer? Or would you still accept the housing benefit, because housing benefit only probably pay, what, a third of the rent probably?
Yeah, well, actually, all the tenants that we have in the Northeast, they're all housing benefit tenants. So 100% of the rent that we get is paid by the local authority. So we're already, our tenants are from that sector already, because there's two reasons for that. One, from kind of a landlord perspective, having rent which is paid directly from the local authority to the landlord is, to my mind, I like doing it,
Yeah, that's
because
better.
it's
Yeah,
it's it's better for me as a landlord. But also, having lived in that area myself, and I know the quality of accommodation. I moved about 5 or 6 times, because the standard of accommodation in the area was absolutely abysmal, and I want to be part of the group of people who are investing investing in that area and are providing decent standard accommodation to people who really need it. So we're not renting to the private sector, we're only renting to people who are on housing benefits. So we've had, during the COVID situation, I don't have a lot now, but the partner who we're working with, he has about 120 in the area, and he only had one tenant out of all of those who had an issue with arrears. And that tenant they made an agreement with them because had been a long-term tenant. They were in a position that was very difficult through no fault of their own. And they worked out, a plan that, they were able to stay and they could, make payments and make a plan that worked for them. So nobody of any of the houses that, we're involved in, was ever affected and ever lost their home because of that. So I like operating in that area. I know a lot of people and a lot of landlords who won't touch housing benefit.
Yeah, they don't.
Yeah, but to me, I like doing it because I want to be part of a group that are investing in the area and increasing the standard of accommodation. So to be able to provide because it's generally a vulnerable section of the society we're housing, and making sure that they get a house that is warm, dry, and safe. To me, is a basic human right. And if I can play a hand in providing that, and yes, get rent myself out of that, well, to me, that's a win-win, and that's what I'd like, the way I like to do it.
Yeah. What area in the UK do you have your houses?
They're in kind of a triangular area of South Shields, Sunderland, Durham. So there's kind of a triangular area. So they're all in that area there.
Yeah. And
so south of the Tyne, the other side of the river that you were on.
Right. Okay, that's funny, isn't it? What you say about Newcastle and stuff like that. With the
not too far.
Sorry. Okay.
Not too far. We must have a bad connection. Not too far from where you were.
Yeah. The trouble is, with kind of properties now, that's in the bad way where landlords sometimes leave. They don't do the work. I remember when I lived in Wallsend, I had a landlord who won't even care about doing his property up, right? But then he wanted his rent. And I thought to myself, well, if you're not going to do it, I'll do it and I'll bill you. But he wouldn't agree with it.
Yeah.
And the trouble is, because it was culture, there's a lot of cultures up in the northeast. He won't put any money into his pocket. Yeah. Do you think landlords like that, do you think they're the wrong for doing that?
Absolutely. I mean, how, I had a house in Ireland as well, which we rented just outside Dublin, and it's also a housing benefit house. And when I refurbished that recently, I think we had about 30 people apply for it. And some of the stories that those people told me, because I got to talk directly to them, there was kids in every situation, because it was a 3-bed house that was renting. And so many stories they shared with me of landlords they were currently renting with for extortionate rent, kind of €1,500 upwards, right, for small little apartments near where we were renting ours. And the standard of living, the amount of damp problems I heard, and there were small children and they were struggling, with asthmatic conditions because of it. And the landlords were taking this money, rent, like 1,500 quid, so not a small amount, and felt no obligation whatsoever to make sure that those families, particularly the kids, were living in somewhere that was, a decent standard of accommodation. And to me, that's absolutely morally totally wrong. And how somebody has, the goal to take rent from somebody and not ensure that they're making sure that the house is in a habitable condition. I'm not talking about, designer, furniture, or, whatever color you like on the wall. This is talking about like basic things that, it's warm, it's safe, and it's dry, and it's well ventilated. And the amount of stories that told me, and it just really upset me listening and seeing kids who were living in disgusting conditions. Like, to me, that's really wrong. And I don't want to be that. I'm not that kind of landlord. And I think the more kind of people who I have working with who start to buy more and more houses in this area, the greater opportunity we have to clean that up. And some of those landlords now, because of some of the taxation changes that are coming in, I think more and more of those will get pushed out, and hopefully we'll get a chance to clean it up, because I like being able to do that too. That to me is really important.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about the taxation and everything. With the about kind of like what you do about being a financial coach and everything, would you say to people today it's good to invest in the Northeast?
I can never advise, because that's kind of beyond my remit and get myself into trouble advising. But personally, from my experience, I have property in Ireland and we have property in the Northeast, and I found definitely the returns and the way it's managed for us works much better in the Northeast, because we can get much more bang for our buck, and we have somebody who takes care of all the hard graft bits, and we can do that from afar. So for me personally, with my circumstances, the Northeast ticks all my boxes, and I'm really happy with what we've done there so far, and we're going to continue to do that in years to come. So for now, the Northeast works really well for me. And for anybody looking into property, I'd certainly encourage you to explore that area. There's loads of potential. There's a huge proportion of great need in terms of housing for local authority benefit clients. So there's a great opportunity, kind of, if you want to be that kind of person, that kind of landlord who actually is part of the scene and cleaning that up, then there's great opportunity to be had.
Yeah, and also it will benefit people in the Northeast, won't it, really?
100%. Yep. To me, it's a win-win. If it's not a win-win, then, it doesn't work. But if it works for me and it works for them. And I think one thing kind of is, shows how well it works with the way we do it is the average tenancy in the Northeast with the houses we work with is 4.5 years. Now, I know myself from living there, I moved 5 or 6 times because of the condition of accommodation I was in. But to have family staying in their houses for 4.5 years is almost unheard of in that area. So to me, when I see that, I think, okay, well, we're obviously doing something right. We don't advertise. It's all done by word of mouth. So it's kind of families sharing with friends and extended family, talk to Yieldwise about renting accommodation. They treat tenants really well, and the accommodation is done to a high standard. And that's how kind of word filters out. So that's a nice way to do business for everybody, and make sure that, we encourage them as well to make the place their home. So the first house we rented out, we bought in December last year and rented out in January. The woman was moving in with her kids, and she wanted to personalize, make a feature wall in in the sitting room. And, absolutely 100%, that's something we encourage, because you want to have them make it feel like it's their home. And if doing things like that help them, then, they're more comfortable in their surroundings and they're more likely to stay. So that works for them and it works for us. So to me, it's like, absolutely, go for it, do that, if that helps you feel more at home.
Brilliant, very good. And the last couple of bits I want to talk about really is financial, about to give women a voice in the financial market. A lot of people are investing in either property, women especially, and in storage shops. Then a lot of people are investing. If any women are listening now or watching, what advice can you give someone who wants to start their own business today?
Somebody who wants to start their own business, I think definitely, like I kind of said earlier, I think I'd start with the end in mind. So what is it you're trying to build? How do you see it playing out? And then work backwards from there. And secondly, I'd say is, if you can, find something that you really enjoy doing, because, there's lots of people who have gone down that road, and I personally experienced it in the last year. When you find something you really enjoy doing, it doesn't feel like work. So for me, kind of Friday night, 9:30, having a chat with you about this, it doesn't feel like work. It feels like something I'm passionate about doing, and I could talk all day, every day about it. So it makes it so much easier. So if you can find something in whatever it is you're looking to do that you really enjoy, then it's personally fulfilling, and it's fun, and you enjoy it, and you can, yes, as an aside, make money from it too. But that's a really nice way to go from personal experience.
Yeah, yeah, and that is, it's about also helping people and giving somebody, a home, because there's a lot of people at the moment on the streets in the UK and and around the world that's suffering because there's not enough homes, especially in the UK at the moment. There's a
Yeah,
waiting list for the council and for other properties too, and we just, I just hope that
yeah.
that things will kind of like get better for everybody.
I hope so. Yeah, I think there's, in the group of people I'm operating in, I see a lot of people working in charitable, getting into property, but getting into it in an ethical way. So they're working in supported living or assisted living. They're working specifically with developments to getting people off the streets, and think projects like that. And that's things that really make me smile when I talk to people like that. And I think, again, they're doing win-win stuff. Yes, of course, they're making money out of it, absolutely, but it's helping people get off the street as well, and make sure they have a warm place to live, which I think every person should have the right to. So yeah, I'm hopeful that the tide will change on this. There's enough good people out there doing good things. I don't like relying on a government for anything, to be honest. I don't have much faith in them turning things around. So I think it comes back, like the food bank, which is privately funded largely,
Mm,
is coming back with property as well to private individuals, and getting them to turn the tide on this.
yeah. I'm a Christian person, and all I can say is this: that I believe that everybody, as you said, deserves a home, and no one deserves to be on the street. But the trouble is, the government are more worried about themselves. This is what I feel, and they just care about themselves and what they want to make for their own pockets and for their own choosing. And I just don't understand it. I don't know. I don't know, but I just pray that one day someone will come along and change things. It's very appalling. And but anyway,
Yeah, yeah,
um,
no, I
thank you.
agree with you. It
Yeah,
is appalling. Yeah,
it's need a wake up call. But anyway, thank you so much for joining me. I love the conversation. I'd love to have you back sometime and talk about more about finance, about women and things like that, because there's a lot to talk about, and even about more about your business, what you're doing. Congratulations on what you're doing, because I think you're also empowering a lot of women to do, to run their own business and to give advice about financial. And I think when people like yourself is helping people, then you need a pat on the back.
no,
Thank you
thank you,
so much.
Stephen. Thanks for having me on, and yeah, I'd love to chat again about it. Thanks for your time.
Thank you. Bye bye.